Hello everyone, I'm going to be doing something super quick because I already recorded a bunch of stuff and apparently OBS was not recording any of it. So besides my rage, I'm just going to be going through a short Megacolony market watch. I'm going to try not to nerd out too much here. And we're just going to be looking right away. Guilty Empress Gridora, probably one of the more expensive pieces of Megacolony, and it's only like 14 bucks. If you want more than 3 copies, then you're probably going to have to spend more. But that's just kind of how it works. I do expect it to be reprinted later in the year, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you really want to get into Megacolony, I think now is a really good time. I think Gridora is at a really good price. Moving on to the next piece. Brilliant Blister. Basically, it's just a really good tool. It's good in your Gridora and your Shield Fisher builds. Maybe you could probably play it in Macketing, although Macketing looks being pure. It is getting more expensive. It's been a little bit since it's been printed, but it hasn't been that long. I would keep an eye on it, but I think you could definitely head back up in price. Getting closer to the V Premium collection, so it's just something to think about. Paralyzed Madonna, obviously depending on which rarity you get it and when you get it, it's going to be different in price. Looking at it right now, so let's look at the reprinted price. It's been at like $1, but there's so many copies for like $1. So it's really easy to get your draw trigger staples for as long as you need. Going into the more expensive stuff, we are going to be looking at Inlet Pulse. Inlet Pulse is exclusive to the Flagbird build, but there's not a lot we can do about that. It's a race standard, it gives you advantage, and it gives you resources. It is most definitely worth the price. Do I think the price is a little much? Absolutely. I think Bushiroad making this incorporatable in every Suikea build besides Zorga is a mistake. I think that it was a terrible card design decision because it's a triple rare, which means everyone needs it. Kind of like how Brainwash Swirler works, although at least Brainwash Swirler isn't usable in literally every single Dark Zone deck. I know it's Dark States now, but whatever. This card is cheap. It's a common. There's so many copies of it everywhere. Like, look at this. There's 19 copies here for 12 cents. 24 copies over here for 19 cents. Like, I could literally buy, like, the entire thing, like, right now. Like, look at this. This is crazy. The Shield Pitcher build is the third build besides Gridora and Flagbird right now. It's definitely one of the cheaper versions of the build. Because of the price of another card that's been going up recently. Sticky Balls has been going up in price a lot. In fact, I don't know why this is actually less. In fact, let me look at this. No, some of them are super expensive, but going back... Yeah, look at that. It's like a pretty consistent $3. It is from one of the more expensive sets, Phantom Dragon Aeon and V Premium. So which means there are very limited copies of this card. If the next V Premium build is focused on Dogface, it's very possible that this card will get reprinted because this was definitely the more important piece in the build. Maybe they'll like consider vendors and say like, oh, this card isn't that expensive. But there's not that many cards printed of it because Phantom Dragon Aeon was kind of a shit set. So maybe they will reprint it. There's only a couple more cards to look at here, so let's look at Trantis. Trantis is the GBA. It's really not a great GBA. Like, you really just want to strike Gridora, but this is something to consider, like, if you don't have 8 Gridora copies. So it makes all of your opponents, Vanguards and Rearguards, lose their auto abilities. I really don't like that it doesn't make the cards of the Guardian Circle lose their auto abilities. You would think that, meh, but... One thing that's neat about this card is that all of your units get 5k power for each of your opponent's Vanguards and Rearguards at rest, which means that if you're running Inlet Pulse and you're running the Flagberg build, which if you're at GB8, then you probably are going to deck out. You're probably not going to see this card, but it's something to consider. But you can boost all of your units by an absurd amount of power and multi-attack over and over again. I just wish this card did a little bit more. For GB8, it's kind of underwhelming. It's like, oh, all of your cards lose their auto abilities. Well, this is on the back of it. Yeah, that's so useful when it's your turn. Whatever, but I digress. Last card we're going to be looking at is Zoa. The Antlion build hasn't been used in Megacolony in forever, but it's one thing to consider. It's pretty cheap because of the promo release, but if you don't get your copy now, then it's going to be super expensive. It's just something to consider. Megacolony is relatively cheap right now, so if you're curious about getting into it, or if you're interested in getting your Zoa copy for any of your Zoo builds, then I would highly recommend now. Another card that is great right now is Lena. Lena is about $2, and there's a lot of copies. There's a lot of copies. End of story. With the new Elementaria Sentinel, there's a reason to play a flat draw trigger instead of the Sentinel draw. So Lena is just a perfect mix because it's a 10k shield. If you still want that, obviously you could play like a crit instead, or you could play something else. That's something you can universally you can use in all of the Sorkea builds or Zoo builds. But obviously that's all I have for now. I would talk a little bit more, but I've already done so much recording for this, and so much of it has just flown out the window. So I hope everyone has a good day or a good night.